So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the internal technical improvements that we put into TiddlyWiki5. So some of this stuff doesn't necessarily manifest itself as desirable end-user features immediately, but based on what I've learned with working with the TiddlyWiki community as a whole, I think this will make TiddlyWiki5 be a much better basis for the kind of development that we've seen with TiddlyWiki. So the first thing, we'll flip into doing a view source in order to see some of this stuff. So this probably doesn't screencast very clearly at all. So the first thing to notice up here is we've got an HTML5 doc type. You may think that that's why TiddlyWiki5 is called TiddlyWiki5, but it could also be because it's 5 years since TiddlyWiki came out. Then you can see a specially formatted comment here. This, it turns out, amazingly, is the way that Internet Explorer allows you to embed base64 encoded images in an HTML file and display them. Astonishingly, this capability has been in IE since Internet Explorer 5 or something, and it's taken until now for us collectively to discover this capability. But it's huge. One of the things that's been a problem for traditional TiddlyWiki is people often want to distribute a TiddlyWiki document with the images. The images, by being all separate files, suddenly turn the job of giving somebody a single file to giving somebody a zip file and hoping they can unzip it, etc., etc. Whereas having the images properly integrated just makes them something you don't need to think about at all.
And this also works in all the other browsers as well.
Yeah, indeed. So on IE, the browser directly reads the resource. On Firefox and other browsers, the TiddlyWiki code reads the entire comment, parses it, extracts the base64 data, and chucks it in a tiddler for use in display. Then down here, you can see the beginnings of the microkernel architecture, where at this stage in its development, essentially every block of TiddlyWiki's code is made into a distinct script tag, along with the title. And one of the things that we do when we process TiddlyWiki at startup is to read all of these plugins into tiddlers of that name. So I can show you here, if I go to the table of contents, you'll see that some of the things listed here are source code. There you go. There's the source code for $tw.clock. And here's the source code for one of the serializers. So in due course, we want to make this be a first-class JavaScript browser. So this will be color encoded. You will be able to click on symbols to get through to their definitions. The microkernel gives the possibility of people creating their own custom variants of TiddlyWiki. It's not clear how whether that's a case of giving people enough rope to hang themselves or whether it's a genuinely useful capability, but it'll be there anyway. Scrolling down over some, these are other blocks of content. Here you can see how a tiddler is encoded in HTML. So this is the raw text of the tiddler, so to speak, encoded in a special HTML block that's parsed at startup. So here you can see it's the tiddler called TiddlyWiki5, and again back over here you can see we can open the document, we can open that tiddler, there it is, there.
And this is different to what it was like in the original TiddlyWiki, isn't it?
Yeah, and the original TiddlyWiki used wiki text, which is the traditional way of traditional way of implementing wikis. So the trade-off traditionally has been that WYSIWYG is sort of easy to type, but wiki text is much more expressive. But we think that we've here managed to capture the best of both approaches by having WYSIWYG with the ability to insert dynamic content.
And also it was escaped, wasn't it, before, so it wasn't actually visible.
Yeah.
Whereas now, because these are standard divs, if you open the document without any JavaScript or if you're a search engine bot.
Let's do that. So if I remember how to turn off JavaScript in Safari, it's under security, obviously. So if I refresh now, you get to see the raw content in the HTML file. And you can see at the moment, for this view, the JavaScriptless view, I'm not worrying too much about whether the thing looks right. I'm more interested in making the content be easy to parse by a robot, in effect. So I think that although there are clearly cases for end users accessing sites with JavaScript disabled, and I'm not trying to belittle those, I think the really interesting non-JavaScript cases are where you've got essentially a robot reading the file, and Google, being a search engine, is the classic case in point.
So go on then. So you're talking about the different ways now, because you've already shown us one way, which is up the top of the page. You've got these the binary sort of.
Yeah. So we support now 5 or 6 different formats for tiddlers. These ones here are in X-tiddler format, which will probably get changed, but it's basically a script tag that is not JavaScript, so therefore the browser skips it, but it's easy in JavaScript code to read the contents of that. So here, this is how I'm storing some SVG images. So SVG is essentially a variant of XML, and you can see it here being the payload within one of these tiddlers. Scrolling down, there's a bunch more tiddlers like that. And then I think, okay, there's some more documentation tiddlers. Here you can see something faintly interesting. Oops, that wasn't very clever. Which is the support for Markdown. So Markdown is a popular format for typing content such that it can be easily converted to HTML. Here you can see us including jQuery and jQuery UI, and that's one of the sort of guilty secrets of TiddlyWiki, is that I was learning JavaScript when I first did it. Didn't have a whole lot of experience of JavaScript. Neither did things like jQuery, Dojo. None of those things existed at the time, and so TiddlyWiki historically kind of rolled its own functionality to do that. And even though we've subsequently integrated jQuery, it was kind of too late to go back and re-architect the core. But now the thing's built from the ground up to take advantage of those components. Here's another interesting thing. We've got a style sheet which is encoded in a style element in the usual way. So this will be processed by the browser, but it also has an additional comment header that causes TiddlyWiki to read it as a tiddler. So in this case it's $tw.styles.basic. So if I go back to, if I re-enable JavaScript and go back to TiddlyWiki5 in the browser, you can see that, oh no, that's the wrong one actually. You can see the styles are here. So by making the style information available within a tiddler, it means that an end user can edit it without having to pull out an editor. I should go a bit quicker probably here now. The code itself is designed carefully to be read, so you'll find tiddlers, as you read the source code, that are documentation, that are giving you kind of overview stuff, interspersed with the tiddlers that contain the code. This, I think, is one of the things that was cool about the original TiddlyWiki, is that it was small enough that you could just do a view source, read the thing from beginning to end in a day, and it was all kind of amenable to one person understanding it in their head in one go. I'd just like to draw your attention to a couple of features. Internally, there's a syntax that's very like jQuery's chaining syntax that plugins can use as an expressive way to interact with the tiddler store. There's a number of bits of code to do with processing of graphics that are quite novel, particularly the work we have to do to be able to accommodate multiple SVG images within the same document whilst coping with the possibility that they have IDs that clash. And that's turned out to be one of those tricky little bit twiddling jobs, but it seems to work now. There's a macro architecture just like with old TiddlyWiki, so there's an expectation that there will be people out there writing macros and plugins that replace some of the core functionality, just as we've seen with traditional TiddlyWiki, and how that is one of the things that enables the diversity you see in usage. I think that's probably the key things that I try and draw attention to at this stage, but perhaps we'll talk more next time.